Thank you so much to our chairperson, Ms. Busiso Kambule. Before we start, I just want to make sure that everyone who's here has an ID. I'm joking, guys. But as she mentioned, that today is our very first media briefing, so it's very important for us to sit down and have this opportunity to share with the media exactly who we are, and maybe just clear out a few things on who we are, what we stand for, etc., and maybe what to expect going forward. So we meet here today after 3 long weeks where we were relentlessly fighting and quest to ensure that Indigenous South African children have access to something as basic education. And we are here to re-emphasize the principles espoused in the Constitution of the Republic that our government needs to make sure that they progressively realize within our available resources. I'm going to repeat this, within our available resources, because it's very important. Our call is for the prioritization of South African citizens, and it is embedded in the context of the text reflected above. It is not xenophobia, and it is not a shallow understanding of the law or political grandstanding, but a call for proper interpretation of the laws of the country. On the 24th of March 2024, we took to the streets of Durban calling for the state institutions to act against the influx of illegal immigrants in our country. We made a clarion call for our government to close our porous borders. We did so because of the skyrocketing increase of illegal immigrants who enter our shores daily without a trace of their history or even knowing the reasons why they are in the country. So in this press briefing, we intend to set the record straight, to caution the citizens that there is a huge difference between asylum seekers, refugees, as well as illegal immigrants. And this is the point that our government flat out refuses to accept. Having listened to the voices of ordinary South Africans like us, we decided to establish the movement, considering the number of women and children who are trafficked in our country every single day. We started this movement knowing that drug dealers, human traffickers, business moguls, certain politicians, of course, and the beneficiaries of money generated through hijacked buildings, for example, will not rest but fight using all strategies available. We also knew that with the 27 hijacked buildings in eThekwini particularly, all the hijacked government buildings where the criminals are not paying rates and taxes, along with many other crimes, will result in a serious fight and may put the lives of South Africans at risk. We started this movement, this movement is for all South African citizens, black, white, and it is a movement that's said to be the voice of voiceless South Africans, for the poor, the marginalized, and the disenfranchised. March and March is a call to all South Africans to be the change that they want to see, because our government surely has failed us. Today we want to confirm and advise the public that the movement is registered as a non-profit organization, NPC, and it's led by the founder and the head of the movement, working with capable national leadership, namely Ms. Busiso Kambule, we have Ntlantla Pigman Nkati, we have Teresa Norki, we have Belinda Belcher, who's celebrating her birthday today, and we've got Ulindani Tulu, Oscar Kubeka, who's at the back there, as well as Pretty Mia, and there's Pretty and Usanele Kambule, who's still taking care of errands there. The movement has footprints in Gauteng, Eastern Cape, Mpumalanga, and KZN, and we have coordinators in all of these provinces and other coordinators who are working around the clock to ensure that the structures are established in all 9 provinces. This is what we would like to see for the movement. The movement is not event-based. So the movement is not event-based, but It is not a movement established to narrowly just fight against the abuse of our immigration laws, but it is a movement that is established to fight for all South African citizens to be put first in their own countries, and to make sure that whenever government takes a decision, they understand that the ripple effects happen to the citizens of this country. All right, so the movement will, in the near future though, as it delves into its policy position, come up with strategies and programs that will assist South African citizens whose rights have been violated either by the state or private entities, and in a quest to realize the goals and the missions that we've mentioned in the latter paragraph. The movement is in the process of establishing a foundation that will, within its available resources, assist victims of sexual violence, victims of violent crimes, drug survivors, owners of hijacked buildings and shops, and the list is not exhaustive. So these are all things that we have noted and highlighted as being the effects that happen through illegal immigration in the country. But as we said, there's quite a number of them that we will be looking at. The movement has realized that South African citizens have for many years been accustomed to being passive citizens whose activism must also only be seen during elections, and then we therefore end up being used as voting fodder. The foundation will be tasked with the responsibility to engage with various sectors of our society, such as academia, in order to have a discourse on active citizenry and patriotism in the country. A country that is ravaged by corruption and lawlessness, where accountability is seen to be a distant cousin. Having realized that some of our people, including public representatives and government officials, are battling to give a correct interpretation of the law and our jurisprudence in particular, the movement has deemed it prudent to establish a legal wing akin AfriForum, but with different values and interests. So the purpose of this forum that we're establishing will be to take all legal issues that affect the groups whose interests that this particular movement represents. So these are namely all human rights issues that are affecting South Africans, that the Human Rights Commission, which is supposed to be a South African Human Rights Commission, continues to fail on and deliberately neglects. The forum will also have a mandate to have awareness campaigns and also create dialogues on the human rights of South Africans. Now let's take a look at our immigration crisis and the scope that we've had to look at it in terms of the law. So it's safe to say that South Africa currently does not have borders. Hundreds of illegal immigrants enter our country daily, crossing through the Limpopo River. Hundreds of thousands are also entering our shores through the Libombo border, coming from Mozambique. Not because there's a war in Mozambique, by the way, but because South Africa has allowed its neighbors to abuse it. Others come from all over the world and enter through our ports and airports using traveling visas, but they never leave the country afterwards, as they see it as their economic breakthrough. In South Africa, we have various categories of immigrants. We have the undocumented illegal immigrants, the asylum seekers, and the refugees, the holders of tourist visas, and the holders of study permits and work permits. We must emphasize that the movement does not have a problem with foreign nationals who are in our country, but they must be here in the country lawfully and for lawful purposes, and conduct themselves in a manner that is respectful to our country and its laws. And once their documents have expired, they must leave the country as stipulated by law and not seek to stay in the country forcefully or illegally, using documents after breaking the law. Section 11 of the immigration policy provides for visitors permits to be issued to foreign nationals, provided that they have the financial means or other guarantees. The said visas cannot exceed 3 months unless approved by the department. The law is clear that the holders of such a permit cannot work in the Republic, but must be here for academic sabbatical, charitable activities and research, and may not conduct work in South Africa. But because our systems are so weak, we have seen many foreign nationals who are holders of visitors permits or visas doing work in South Africa, even after they expire. I'm going to mention that we are going to have a look at this particular place that we have conducted this media briefing, because we have been informed of a breaking of such a law, just to prove that nobody is immune to what we're saying. And many of these people that we're talking about are in the hospitality industry. Some are car guards, they're working in salons, they're domestic workers, they're working in farms, and some are committing violent crimes, yet the rate of unemployment of the country as at Q3 of 2025 was sitting at 31.9%, with youth unemployment being at a staggering 58.5% of the population of the country. And all these jobs that we have mentioned previously used to be jobs that were done by South Africans before. We had an influx of foreigners, but lately people are claiming that South Africans don't want these jobs simply because they wish to continue to exploit foreign nationals who are desperate to stay in the country illegally, and will therefore agree even to salaries that are below minimum wage, or even being treated like slaves, just so they can earn a living. This is why even the economy of the country is now at risk, because the rich only want to get richer, even if it means breaking our own laws. There's also the issue of business permits. Section 15 of the Immigration Act makes provision for the state of issuing of business permits to foreign nationals who want to do business and work in our country. There are prescribed requirements, however, to be met before this permit is issued, which includes financial capital and compliance with SARS requirements. Despite this section being there, we have seen a skyrocketing hostile takeover of the South African township economy and other sectors, particularly by foreign nationals from Pakistan, who are owning almost every tuck shop in our communities. And they're not employing South Africans. They're using these tuck shops as drug hubs. And we have seen even salons mushrooming in all the streets of Durban, and some even claiming to be clothing shops. Not only Durban, but Johannesburg and Pretoria, where Nigerians are not doing haircuts, but behind the scenes they're doing and selling drugs, planning cyber crimes, there's human trafficking and prostitution happening. The same spattle shop industry that has an estimated annual turnover of 180 to 197 billion rand. Now the question is, if this industry is no longer at the hands of South Africans, where is all of this revenue going? Is it even regulated or taxed if there are no proper documents that are in place? We have seen children dying because of the food that they are consuming in these spaza shops. The children dying because of the food that they're eating in these spaza shops, and no effort is being put by our government to stop this crisis. Instead, they told them that they must just be registered. Our own people are not innocent from this. Many, due to financial difficulties, end up renting their shops to illegal foreigners, and all the streets of Durban are infested with illegal immigrants who are using business permits of South Africa and South African citizens to sell their counterfeit goods, their drugs, and illicit cigarettes. They live with them and exposing the entire populace to criminals from all over the world. Some of these foreigners may have valid business permits, but they continue to abuse them and refuse to comply with the law. And we ask that our government should revoke these permits and be deporting such foreigners back to their countries of origin. Our people in Emabodini in Newcastle continue to work under the most horrendous conditions. The Chinese continue to employ illegal immigrants, particularly from Lesotho, in order to use them as cheap labor, which is a modern day slavery. We need more stringent laws to deal with this issue, as it is clear that issuing of fines to people who break this law is not working and is not a solution. Now, going back to the issue of medical treatment permits, because a lot of people have criticized us because of the stand that we've taken when it comes to the resources in our hospitals. We have been ridiculed by political leaders which suggested that there is a law in this country and we must adhere to it and stop picketing, because until the law is amended, they have a duty to amend it. Some even came to Addington just to say that we must abide by the law, and then they left, but forgot to read Section 17 of the Immigration Act, which provides any foreigner intending to receive medical treatment in South Africa that they must, upon application to come to the country, have proof that they have met all the requirements to be issued with a medical treatment permit. It doesn't say that they must come to the Republic just with their hands. It says that they need to come with a medical permit. One of the requirements is that a guarantee must be received confirming that such a foreigner's treatment costs will be paid. This is one of the requirements by law. And this talks to what we have been saying for over a year, that foreigners must pay for their own medical treatment unless exceptional circumstances warrant that the state, within its available resources, assist them. We are talking about people who are here legally in this reference and not illegal immigrants. Section 32 of the Immigration Act, now this section is not ambiguous. It says that any illegal foreigner shall depart unless authorized by the department to remain in the Republic, pending his or her application for a status. This does not refer to the fence jumpers that we've seen who enter our country daily by illegal means. It refers to people with real problems running away from their countries because of civil wars and running away from persecution. The section further states that any illegal foreigner shall be deported. It does not leave any room for negotiation with such illegal immigrants, contrary to what we are seeing now. These undocumented immigrants come to our country. They abuse our healthcare resources by giving birth thousands of times a year, and who must later abuse our education system. And that's why we have so many crises facing us as the country, because we cannot provide all our resources to all of these people who are flocking into the country, and we don't even have the proper numbers, by the way, that are accurately depicting how many of them. We only have certain studies and research that kind of allude to how many we have. Our economy is not growing as it should, because many of these domestic and global factors which result in a shallow public pursuit that can service millions of immigrants while South African citizens continue to suffer. More than 17 million citizens are depending on social grants, with a budget of over 200 billion annually. This makes us deeply concerned that the government continues to pay millions of rands to keep foreign nationals on the COVID-19 relief program, for example, a budget that can be redirected to employing more and more controls at the border. Today we have 27 hijacked buildings in Durban alone and many in Johannesburg. And many of these we know have been occupied by foreigners who are using these buildings for drug manufacturing, storing explosives, used in illegal mining and cash in transit heists. A problem that we would not have if we had not had an influx of illegal immigrants who need and are desperate for a place to stay, which has led us to a crisis now where we have illegal mining, which is conducted by illegal immigrants. While we appreciate that people have problems in their own countries, and these problems are ranging from slow growth of their economies, unemployment, lack of infrastructure, and social ills, political instability as well, we can never allow South Africa to be a permanent crime scene because most immigrants are not in South Africa for genuine reasons. Today, we have over 300 families who have been forcefully removed from their homes by Zamazamas. And everyone goes on as if this is just normal. And it's a well-known fact that majority of these illegal immigrants and illegal miners come from our neighboring countries such as Lesotho and Botswana. What we have seen our people going through is the most inhumane thing, where families and women and children are forced to live in community halls, where they live in one structure and they share limited bathrooms, while trigger-happy illegal immigrants armed with automatic rifles continue to terrorize our communities, and our people are slowly losing hope from the institutions that are meant to be protecting them. Yet we have not heard a word from the president of the country. Our people believe that the same strategy used during COVID-19 lockdown would have been implemented in that community. It may not be a health catastrophe, but the fact that children cannot go to school, citizens are being deprived of their right to freedom and dignity, means that it's a matter of life and death. We have also seen an increase in cash in transit heists, and we have a concern with the increased number of illegal immigrants who have been involved in violent crimes in our country. They carry dangerous weapons, particularly those from Mozambique. Today we don't have DJ Waris, who was brutally killed for trying to restore order and reclaiming hijacked buildings. What is disheartening is that amongst those who have been implicated, and he was appearing a few hours ago in courts, is that this person is an illegal, undocumented foreign national from Mozambique. We are not just fighting against illegal immigrants, but we are fighting a system that allows it to happen. Therefore, we are calling on all South Africans who are aiding, abetting, and harboring illegal immigrants, providing them with homes and renting them their tuck shops, to kindly please stop doing so. Section 42 of the Immigration Act is clear that doing this is a crime. That's why we are going to be putting our feet on the ground with awareness campaigns and mobilizing in all communities to help the illegal immigrants pack their bags and go home, but also helping South Africans to open cases against those South Africans who are playing a part in aiding and abetting illegal immigrants. We've also noted a high rise in the abuse of our refugee laws. We note and appreciate that the Department of Home Affairs has gone out of their way and started the consultation for the white paper, a process that we have been part of and participated in, and we've made some very meaningful contributions. And this is contrary to the belief of our detractors. We have always had a considered view that the first safe country principle must apply in South Africa. It cannot be that a person will cross 5 countries to seek refuge in South Africa and then claim that they are refugees, and then many of whom end up as economic migrants instead of them being genuine refugees, because we see them going home and coming back during the holidays, and we wonder what kind of refugees are these. We have also noted that there's a number of immigrants who come to South Africa seeking refuge when they do not qualify for the refugee status. and some collude with the government officials who are working at Home Affairs and get assistance from some politicians to get these documents and increase the numbers of refugees who are dependent on the state coffers. Section 3 of the Refugees Act does state that a person qualifies for a refugee status on the following basis. This is owing to a well-founded fear of being persecuted by reasons of his or her tribe, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership of a particular social group. It is outside the country, or his or her nationality is unable or unwilling to avail himself or herself of the protection of that country, or not having a nationality and being outside the country of his or her former habitual residence, and is unable, owing to such fear, to return to it, and owing to external aggression, occupation, foreign domination, or events seriously disturbing or disrupting public order in either a part or a whole of his or her country of origin or nationality. This is what the Act says. Now, the million-dollar question is, does Nigeria, for example, meet the requirements of the above? If not, why are we seeing greater portions of our cities and towns, such as Point Road or Sunnyside in Pretoria, being taken over by Nigerians who are known drug dealers, traffickers in South Africa, and human traffickers in South Africa? This is a clear sign of the abuse of the Refugees Act. They do not only destroy the future of our country by condemning thousands of young people to being drug addicts, and this will not only affect the labor market, but we will also have families, our culture being extinguished. We will begin to see their culture being dominant, as we see in certain places they have taken over. They are now creating their own nationality, which they call Salgerian. Linking the permanent resident status has caused too many problems for the country, with hundreds of South African women entering into transactional marriages with foreign nationals in order for such illegal immigrants to stay in our country and plunge us deeper into crisis in terms of resources and sustaining the country. We strongly support the amendment of the Refugee Act, particularly where it conflicts with the Constitution of the Republic, because Section 27 of the Refugees Act states that refugees enjoy full protection, which includes the rights set out in the Bill of Rights. However, if you carefully read the Constitution of South Africa, and particularly the rights enshrined in the Bill of Rights, you will appreciate that not all of them are enjoyed by non-South Africans, as stated. We draw your attention to Section 22, as it does not say everyone, but it says every citizen has a right to choose their trade, occupation, or profession freely. This section does not envision the benefits of immigrants. If the context and logic of interpretation of Section 27 is that refugees have the benefits of the rights in Chapter 2, without stating that they enjoy the benefits of certain rights, then we might soon face another constitutional disaster where refugees may actually want to vote, when Section 19 of the Constitution, which is in the Bill of Rights, states that every citizen is free to make political choices, which include the right to vote and form a political party. So clearly here we have got a conflict between what the Constitution says and what the Refugee Act says. And this is going to create even more crises for us. And this is not the only conflict that we've noted, by the way. There are many others. What our Constitution says about limited resources is also stipulated in many of the other immigration laws and criminal laws and laws in the country. And some seem to put that against the Constitution of the country. So less than 7.6 million people pay personal income tax in the country. a country that has a population of over 60 million people, only 7.6 million pay personal income tax, with just 1% of the taxpayers earning over 2 million, while approximately 28 million citizens are dependent on social grants in the country. This is 47% of the population of our country is dependent on social grants. And this is an amount of 267 billion that is spent by our government every single year. So it's clear that the country doesn't have enough resources to cater for foreign nationals coming from all over the world and then hide behind the Constitution, then make the Constitution and its laws contradict each other. Section 7 of the Constitution reads, with Section 36, makes it clear that the rights in the Bill of Rights are subject to limitations, and there's also something that is called fair discrimination. We are calling upon our government to apply these principles stated by the Constitutional Court in the case of Subrumani and Grootman, for example, of such cases, that it can only provide services within the available resources. We are not a welfare state of the world. You can't feed your neighbor when your children are hungry. And as we have seen now, there's a number of politicians who just go on platforms and podiums and they just say, the law says, without taking into consideration that you cannot keep glorifying the laws that continue to oppress the citizens of the country and continue to make the state run out of funds and resources. As much, we will conclude by proposing a few solutions for the country. Aside from making sure that our laws are implemented correctly and interpreted correctly, effective border management control is of utmost importance, which is something that we have not seen in a long time. People walk in and out of our borders freely and do as they wish, making it easy to commit crimes, especially since South Africa is growing in the ranks of being a capital for human trafficking. We call for mass deportation of illegal immigrants. Those that are already in the country need to be reminded that being in the country illegally is a crime, and they need to self-deport, and if they refuse to do so, then the government needs to make sure that they promote mass deportation. We want the Constitutional Court to clarify the meaning of everyone in the Constitution, because over and over again, as much we have emphasized that there's no constitution in the world that was meant for everyone. If it was meant to be for everyone, then the Constitutional Court needs to make a declaration on such and needs to make sure that it clarifies this. We also propose for South Africans to go out in numbers and open cases against those other South Africans that you know that are harboring illegal immigrants. We can only win this fight if we work together as South Africans. And we know that some South Africans are not on board, as they are friends or have a family that they're harboring that are illegal immigrants. But at the end of the day, the laws of the country must take precedence. In conclusion, we want to say that March and March is not a political party. March and March is a citizen-led movement that seeks to call on all South Africans in numbers all over the country to come and be a part of the change that we want to see. And this forum that we want to build and want to form is going to be there, and it's going to need South Africans who are lawyers. It's going to need South Africans who are researchers. It's going to need South Africans who are doctors. It's going to even need South Africans who are security guards or cleaners to come on board and be a part of the change that we want to see in this country. Because clearly our laws are being broken each and every day while we sit back and wait for government to be our solution. We've seen over the years that our government does not provide solutions. Instead, they create more problems that need money to solve them so that they can have more money at their disposal. We therefore wish to state that when we said we will march and march until we win, that is exactly what we meant. We also wish to make it known that on the 24th of March is our anniversary as March and March, and we have therefore taken on something very big for us. We hope we'll be able to pull it off, which is a 2-day protest where we will march and march for 2 days, seeking for our government to give us attention on the issue of illegal immigrants. It's going to be on the 24th and the 25th of March, and it's going to be the anniversary of March and March. Our freedom was won through South Africans being on the ground, not on their phones. Unfortunately, back then there were no cell phones, and we are just unlucky that people now protest only through their phones. We call on all citizens to come on the ground, be part of the movement as we work to make sure that every single day we deal with the issue of the influx of illegal immigrants. Stop buying from illegal immigrants. We've seen a lot of children are dying from the food which is not regulated, the standards are not checked, etc., etc. Stop keeping them in your homes. Stop harboring criminals. We know they are human beings, and we know that sometimes it's difficult to detach from human beings. But what is more important is the survival of this country, not just for ourselves, but for the future of our children as well. I thank you very much. I'd like to say before I hand over to our chairperson for questions, is that we've actually also launched a website. As you can see, that's our website. It's marchandmarch.org.za. This is where you can join the movement. There's no fee that you pay or anything of that sort. It's just South Africans from across all walks of the country to raise their hands and say, hey, I want to be a part of the change. I want to be a patriotic South African. I want to play my part and fight for the survival of this country. So if you would like to join, if you'd like to see what are the activities that we have, we also have a lot of people wanting to donate to the movement. You'll find those details on our website. It's marchandmarch.org.za, marchandmarch.org.za, and we are very, very happy to be launching this website today as well. And for those who wish to contact us, these are some of our details as well. You can call us, actually WhatsApp us on 069-442-5824, 069-442-5824. If it's an emergency, of course you can call, but also you can email us marchandmarch@yahoo.com, and we're also available on those social media platforms, TikTok, Facebook, as well as our YouTube channel. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair, our leader, our founder, Jacinta Ndebesisi. We're going to be taking questions, and then we'll take maybe in the batch of.
There won't be that many, I'm sure everyone's
let's see how we flow, because it's not too busy. So we'll just select, maybe we can do it in a U shape, clockwise. If I can have the hands. Okay, we can start. And please introduce yourselves as we to take the question.
Sanibona Sabelo abase weDurban Network. Nginembuzo la emibili kuphela. Ngicabanga ukuthi we are all very aware ukuthi abaqashi kakhulu abaphathi bey'nkampani ba-prioritize ukuqasha illegal foreign immigrants because in that way they are able to maximize their profit. Yini mhlampe i-March and March ezimisele ukuthi ingayenza beyond lokho esike sikubone ekutheni i-enforce iy'nkampani ukuthi zi-comply, because angiboni ukuthi it's going to be an easy journey ukuthi bavume kanjalo nje just to let it go, because I think yezinto eyenza ukuthi ukuchampioneka kokungena kwama-illegal foreign immigrants kube kuningi because kunabantu who know ukuthi benza i-profit through bond. Then my second question, abaphathi bezwe, they seems to be not advocating your voices, but they are actually opposite of what you are saying basically. So umbuzo wami uthi mhlampe in the future time ayikho yini inhlangano esinganibona ni-aligna nayo so that mhlampe nizokwazi ukuthi nibe nezwi ekushintsheni umthetho, because honestly awukwazi ukushintsha umthetho ungekho lapha eParliament ko-legislature. You know, there's certain platforms which enables you to participate in terms of changing the law. So ayikho inhlangano esinganibona mhlampe ni-associate nayo engahambi ibe namandla ekutheni inisize ukuthi into enizifisa zenzeke. Thank you.
Afternoon, Noviso Shamina from ENCA. Just a quick question. This week, we are all aware that the President Ramaphosa will be doing his own address. Last year, we came from a difficult year as citizens. There was the Marginal Commission, a lot of things came in the media, the wrongs and the rights. So as an organization, since you didn't identify yourself as a political party, so what are some of the things that's much for much, which is the state president mentioned in his much awaited address? I'm sure a lot of South Africans are waiting to hear him out on what he has to say, because it's been promises for many, and some are looking forward to hear what he has for our citizens in this country. Thank you so much. And also, we would like to request a one-on-one after the briefing.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Punzi Kungong from the News SA. I think I've just got one question. There's one problem that we can say that the Home Affairs probably they're not aware of, and we see it. I'm talking this from experience whereby I've written a story about it. The problem is that people who actually do not have papers, most of them are saying they are force-fitted to pay around to 20,000. Recently, I think 4 days ago, the guy was saying he was told to close to pay 50,000 just for papers for him to have a visa. Don't you think it's stuff like that also that should intervene on? Because the more those people from the Home Affairs are doing this tremendous thing of making these people pay and not giving them papers and delaying it, instead of giving people papers and not taking bribery, which is the worst thing they do for us. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for the questions. We'll start with Sabelo Network. When you're talking about companies and what we can do when it comes to profits, I think we did mention that in the sense that we have asked for the government to make the law stricter when it comes to people who are hiring foreign nationals, because that's the only way that it will work. Right now, the government makes you pay a fine once, I think, then you pay a fine again, and then only on the third, what's the word that I'm looking for? Yes, offense. Do you then get charged? So it's like a fine. Business people can pay like 100,000. You come back again and pay another 100,000, and the chances of our officials coming back again are slim, because as you were also mentioning the issue of bribes, some officials go there knowing very well that the person is not in compliance, so that I can make money off it. You know what I mean? If the government doesn't offer an opportunity for a person to kind of pay for hiring illegal immigrants and they get arrested, like first attempt, there's no second chance about it, because you're breaking the law knowing very well that you're trying to maximize profits. But unfortunately, when you live in a capitalistic state like ours, disguised as something that it's not, you will find that business people are always being put on a pedestal to make them believe that they can get away with anything because they've got money. And I think we've seen this quite often, that business people are not seen as offenders when it comes to the issue of illegal immigrants, because they've got the money. Therefore, we are meant to be just, eating at their feet. Meantime, they are the biggest beneficiaries of this, because those who are there committing all kinds of crimes are making themselves even richer. So the rich, as I mentioned, are only getting richer in South Africa, while the poor are going to end up groveling even for 50 rand, because once you start saying that rich people are immune to any sort of law and poor people must grovel it to rich people in order for them to make means, then you're creating a state where we already are the only country in the world, but the number one country where the gap between the rich and the poor is the biggest in the world. So it's only going to get worse if our government continues to allow this. But unfortunately, we have politicians disguised as politicians, but in the meantime are business people looking out for business interests. Which is why it's always difficult for politicians to come out frankly and say, this is wrong. Business people comply and abide by the law, because they know they're also protecting themselves if they're protecting business people, so that they can continue to create a slavery system where people are dependent on governments. This is the system that we're saying, that we're fighting. We are living in a system where rich people will do any and everything to remain poor and to keep poor people poor, so that they can come begging at their feet. And the only way to fight this is if South Africans in unison say no more is no more. The same way we kept saying that apartheid is oppression, the current system we're living in is an oppressive system. Whether people want to believe it now or later, but one day they will see exactly what we're saying now. We have a government creating a system of oppression for poor people to be more poor, while creating more richer people to be rich for their own interests. And then on the issue of us having a political party that we align with, as different members of March and March, I don't even know what political parties they are part of, but I'm sure they are part of some political parties. We encourage people being part of a political party, because remember, that's what a democracy is about. We encourage people to make their own choices and say, hey, I'm Jacinta, but I'm this political party. For us, it's not an issue. We just want, when we're March and March, to identify as March and March together, because it's not a political event or activity. But if Big Man one day decides that he's going to join another political party, we're not going to stop. We're not going to say, you're no longer a member of us, because no, it's part of his rights. It's part of his choices as a South African. But also, we would like to make a call to South Africans to use whatever political affiliation that they choose to have wisely. Because remember, this is you voting. This is you having a voice. And whichever political party you choose needs to echo exactly what you're saying. They can't go to parliament and then change their stand. You need to know what your political party stands for. If your political party has never said anything about putting South African first and wants to talk about Africa and the African unity and the whatever, then it's not part of what we are advocating for. Because right now we are advocating for South Africans to be put first in South Africa. 30-something plus years later, we've done the Africa thing. We've tried to look good to Africa. But what we've realized is South Africa is the only country in this African vision and dream that's bending over backwards to make the African dream a reality. Because some are saying to us, I'm hearing the most ridiculous thing. And I hope you guys can capture this for me. Maybe it'll answer when people keep asking about why do we target black foreigners who are African like us. Now let us clarify. March and March is not about race. As you can see, there's a white Mlumu here, there's a Charo Indian here, you know. We play around race because this is who South Africa. It's not March and March that's saying this is the identity of South Africa. That's not us saying it. This is the identity of South Africa. It's a rainbow nation. Whether some people like it or not, whether they don't like a white person or Indian person, it doesn't matter. But the dynamics of this country are that we've got different genders, we've got different races. This is who we are. Now, when it comes to the issue of African foreigners, as they claim, South Africa has laws, just as much as Angola, as much as Zimbabwe, as much as Malawi, as much as Mozambique has laws. We don't go to Zimbabwe to break their laws and say, oh, I'm African, now you can't enforce your laws because I'm African. If one South African person has ever had that experience, please bring them to us and let us talk about it and say, well done, thank you. Now at least we know that the African dream is not a South African thing. Because it's ridiculous for people to want to make March and March and the enforcement of the law a racial thing. We're not going to go now and go to the airports and look for white people and say, hi, you're white, bring your documents. Hi, you're white, bring your documents. We're not going to do that. We're going to go to where we know are areas affected by the issue of illegal immigrants. And when we get to those places, whether you're pink or orange or green or purple, we're going to enforce the laws of the country. Whether you're European or African, it doesn't matter. The issue is on the breaking of the laws. It's not about which part of the continent you're from or what skin color you have. That is not what we're here for. That is not part of what we do. We are not going to be targeting white people just so that we seem like we are fighting all races. No, where we are, where our resources are, where our resources need to be protected, we will protect those resources regardless of race if you are an undocumented, illegal foreigner in our country. And then ENCA, Span Code, you asked us about the SONA. Can I leave that to the last hour? We'll go to Phumzile first. Talking about Home Affairs and people of Home Affairs taking bribes, corruption, etc. Now, we have a serious issue when it comes to Home Affairs and all the corruption that goes on there. We have a serious issue. We've written to the Home Affairs, we've met with the Home Affairs Department, and we've uncovered, they will tell you, a lot of corruption that we send to Home Affairs, and they end up using that to charge whoever the person is. The Department of Home Affairs has never been hostile to us sharing information with them when it comes to corrupt officials. But it feels like because they've done it for so long, some of them are like comfortable with just being criminals, you know? It's the only way they can sustain a life that they've built, you know? Someone takes like 5 of their children to like expensive schools based on the money that they envision that they will get from the corruption that they're going to do. So it's not an issue of a person not getting a salary, you know? It's a person getting a salary but wanting to live way above the means of that salary. That's why money starts exciting South Africans, whether it's officials or whoever, because you have a life, but that life for you starts not getting comfortable because you have a vision now of you getting all kinds of corrupt money, whereas there's people who just want to survive. Where I'm going with this is that when you talk about Home Affairs and documents, we have a problem when they're documenting the wrong people, when they're selling documents, etc., etc. But we cannot understand an issue where a foreign national says they are paying for your visa or they are paying for documents to stay in the country. The mere fact that you have to go that route means you know you're committing a crime. So the official and the immigrant are both wrong. So this is a message we keep sending to everyone, not just here, but in the world. Please, can we not have people forcefully trying to stay in South Africa? When your visa has expired, do the right thing and go home. Apply for your visa when you're at home. Applying for documents in South Africa to forcefully stay in South Africa. You say, oh, I'm a refugee, I've been in the country for 20 years. is not an excuse for you to demand to be documented. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You can stay here for 5, 10, 15 years. At the end of the day, if you did not follow the legal ways to be in the country, and if the government says, no, we're not going to document you, going to find it fraudulently is not the right way of doing it. And it also doesn't take it away from the fact that you are also committing a crime. So we are calling on the Home Affairs Department to continue to deal with some of their officials. We've seen them making their system difficult for fraud, but the most shocking things, like, I don't know how these officials think of these criminal things that they do, because now when they realize that I can no longer be documented just by showing up at Home Affairs and saying I want a birth certificate, because the system requires you to hand in certain documents, they start now taking documents of dead people and using them to be documented in the country. Why the desperation? Like, that's the part that I don't get. Why the desperation for immigrants to be in the country by all means necessary? And more often than not, it's those that are here in the country doing wrong things anyways. It's not the ones that are supposedly refugees or asylum seekers. It's mostly criminals doing their usual criminal ways of staying in the country. And then Usibankulu asked us about the SONA and what we wish for the president to mention and the promises. I don't know if you really want to hear this, because this is as frank as we're going to be. March in March, as I said, echoes the voices of South Africans. And I know that what I'm going to say is not just something that I'm saying for myself, but it's the sentiments of millions of South Africans. As South Africans, we've lost faith in our president. He has proven time and time again to be a president that makes promises but doesn't deliver on those promises. And there's so many things. I remember that at one point when he just delivered a SONA, I don't know which year this was, I was so excited because he spoke about a smart city. You know, I was like, my goodness, this is the technology we're talking about. You know, we want a smart city. Until today, there hasn't even been a shovel or even a map pointing to where that smart city is going to be. And if we can go back to the many SONA addresses that we've had from the president and come back years later to see how many have been delivered, I know many of us will be disappointed. But especially on the issue of immigration, because our president continues to pretend as if it's not happening. And he's not going to wish the issue away. He's not going to pretend like South Africans are unhappy with illegal immigrants. Whether the president likes it or not, sooner or later, whether at the SONA or when journalists decide to corner him, we need him to provide us a solution for the current immigration crisis that we have in the country. Whether it's stemming from Zamazamas to the influx of people stealing medication, whether it's from the criminals that are hijacking buildings, or whether it's from the children being trafficked in and out the country, all of these things are things that he's very much aware of. But we've never heard a thing from the president. And we will continue to put pressure on not just the president, but the presidency and government to say something about it, and not only just say, but do something about it. Because pretending that the issue doesn't exist is not going to make the issue disappear. And unfortunately, when you deal with the issue that deals with people's lives in this matter, if you continue to ignore it, you make the tensions even worse. Like I said, if the government of South Africa is a government for the people, then they need to understand that when the people are saying, Mr. President, we are tired of the immigration crisis in the country, do something about it, and he continues to ignore it, he's only putting more pressure on the people who feel like their voices are not heard to want their voices to be heard by any means necessary. And by that, I need to make it clear that we are in no means promoting violence. That's not what we're saying. But we're saying that we know from the trends that people, when they are frustrated, they'll either go to the road and start burning tires, or they'll go and do something ridiculous. And that is the only way that our government responds. And we are asking for the government to find a better way of dealing with problems than to pretend they don't exist or to leave them there hanging until they reach crisis mode. We are calling the South African government to act today on the issue of illegal immigration and the influx of foreign nationals who are in the country committing crimes and taking over our lives completely, because we're no longer free. We feel like we are being oppressed by foreign nationals who are invading this country. Thank you. Like we said, we've got this Human Rights Commission on our back with the issue of hospitals, and we also want South Africans to fight these non-profit organizations and NGOs with us who continue to think that they are the voice of South Africans while oppressing us. So if we can make a call to all South Africans, please join us. I know some of you are saying you're scared for your jobs or whatever, but one day you won't even have that job if we don't fight today. So I'm making a call for all of us. Put everything aside. If your boss needs an explanation of what March and March is before you take to the streets, we're more than willing to come to your offices and explain who we are so that they don't fire you from work when you are seen on the ground, putting your countries first, fighting for the survival of this country and fighting for your children's future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sanibonani. Nkosenye wabiyela mfumo weTuzuma TV. Umbuzo wami usondele kwa Botshabelo. Bengithi mhlawumbe uzothintana. As March and March. Mhlawumbe anayi time frame ukuthi okay, we've been into democracy for 30 years. But what happened? We've been given democracy and all these wrong things. So umbuzo wami uthini mhlawumbe anayo i-timeline ukuthi zonke lezi zinto eninazo as an organization enifuna ukuthi ifeze, if zingafezeki, wouldn't you want to be part of the pitching to book laphana eParliament ukuthi mhlawumbe the way enipusha ngakhona abantu bayanibona and bayithanda into enzo. If mhlawumbe abantu bethini sifisa ukubona i-March and March i-political organization ilapha eParliament yenza izinto ethini Phakamani sizoniseka, angeke mhlawumbe lokho kushintshe isisekelo ze-organization or mhlawumbe nina i-timeline ukuthi maybe we give government 5 years.
Okay, for us, I don't think we've got a time frame, because with the fight as big as this one, you can't time it. Remember, South Africa was colonized for 300 plus years, but only after 300 years did we manage to get like proper freedom, because we moved from colonization to apartheid, and that system lasted for 40 something years. Then now we've got a democracy that's here for 30 something years, and we see that it's not working for us. You know, and a democracy is effectively supposed to create a situation, which is what I'm happy with, where the IEC now is saying big men can stand as a candidate for Ward Ban. You know, if he has such ambitions, we can't stop him, and we actually encourage him because of the work that he does. He understands the ground and our people. If Lindani or Belinda want to go out there and say we're forming a political party of ours, but based on the principles and things that we've learned from March and March, we will be more than happy to support them. Or if Teresa says, oh no, I am there by Point Road, I want to stand as a councillor so that I can help deal with the issues, we would be more than happy if our members took up that role. But for me, I feel like what I need to emphasize is that, you know, it's easier to go out there and fight a system when we are united. And currently as South Africans, we're not united. Like on social media, we can all say the same thing, right? It's easier to type something. But when it's time to show up and show that we are united as a unit, as South Africans or as KZN people, we're still lacking. Which is why as March and March, it's so important for us to build the thing of patriotism. That's why we're saying today we're launching the movement as a movement that encourages patriotism, which is something that is deeply, deeply lacking in the country. You know, you see someone standing and singing the national anthem of the country and they're scratching their head or doing something funny. Some people don't even know what the flag looks like. Some don't even know what our national plant is. We've got all these things, but we see that our government doesn't see it. You know, in other countries, when you go, even when they're giving you your citizenship, to say that now you're a citizen of this country, it's a big deal. Like it's an event. You go to the offices, you take a pledge. You say, I now pledge my allegiance to such and such a country. Not in South Africa. In South Africa, nobody takes the issue of being a South African seriously. It's like we live for day to day. We don't realize how wonderful our country is. We don't speak highly of it enough. We don't celebrate ourselves enough. We are too invested in these small, you know, if I was to start a gender war today and say, men are like this, men, my daughters in South Africa are like this. Trust me, that would gain more engagements in this country than me talking about the economy of this country. Which means we've got a serious problem. If South Africans are not worried about the economy of their own country, but when you talk about a Soapy or DJ Black Coffee having an event in Moses Mabhida, you'll get the remarks that you want. And nobody funds organizations like ours that want South Africans to be patriotic. Because they know that a lot of people benefit from events, a lot of people benefit from drugs, from alcohol. Alcohol get big beneficiaries. So once you start speaking something that actually directs something South Africans towards a common goal or a vision towards a future for this country, you're creating a problem. That's why we're getting so much resistance from foreigners right now, because they realize that we are ringing alarm bells in South Africans saying, hey, wake up. This is actually what's happening in your country. When all along they were saying these things in private, would say, we are always drunk, we don't care about, they were saying them in private, in the comfort of their circles. Now we force them to come out and say exactly what they think of us. And you can hear from their sentiments that foreigners are comfortable with South Africans being on drugs, being on alcohol, going out and partying and not caring about the country. They'll tell you to your face, 30% pass rate, you know. These are things they say to our faces. But all along, we thought these are people that we live in harmony with. You know, for the longest time, we didn't see that foreigners are so aggressive towards South Africans, that they don't like us. That's the honest truth, they don't like us. They will come to South Africa and use our resources, milk it for all that it has. Most of them will come even get documents in this country to go to other countries. So our country becomes like a passage to a great life. You know, our country is just an economic, like, slave queen to other countries, if I can call it that. Like, please quote that, that's a nice saying. Our country is like an economic slave queen, you know, to other countries where everyone just wants to come here because I want to survive. Ask these foreigners, as many of them as possible, what they contribute to this country. You will realize that they are not contributing to the country. They are just here to take. And if they can take from even our 10-year-olds that are in school and put their own children, they will do it without a heartbeat. And make you feel bad for fighting for your own South African children to be in school. They'll make you seem like you're the one who's crazy, because they are the ones who also have a right. Imagine coming to someone's house and then saying, I have a right to your food, even if your children don't eat, but we are all on the same streets, so why can't I eat? Yes, my kids must eat first because I'm a refugee. I'm sad. I have a sad story. I'm from a poor country. My family is poor. You guys have been rich. So if you're rich, I also have a right to eat. That's the current country that we're living in. That's the system that we've allowed ourselves, and our children will adopt that. But trust me, you see how bad it is now. 2-3 years old, 2-3 years from now, if we don't win this fight, it'll be 10 times worse. So we don't have a choice. We have to win. That's why our motto is until we win. Because not winning is not an option, especially if you're a mother, if you're a father. Because trust me, very soon, even your jobs there, there'll be foreigners there. There by the microphone in front of the camera, writing news. Because journalists will be writing news that are more favorable to South Africans, and that's going to be wrong. Because they are going to be taking over the country, and their stories must dominate how foreigners are this and that. Trust and believe that is the direction we are headed to as a country. And your votes are very important. Because some people are out there allowing this to happen as politicians. Remember when you said that politicians are not speaking the same language as us? Look at the political parties that are speaking the language that is anti-March and March. Look at them. Look at what they stand for. Look at how they are benefiting from this. If you're looking at Madanga Commission today, you will have certain political parties that are benefiting from it. Certain political parties that are benefiting from the discourse and the problems that we have in the country. That's why it's very important that people stop being attached to political parties. If a political party is not serving the interests of South Africans, that political party must be extinct. If it means that it must never exist ever again, that is what must happen. Thank you.
Just last question, Ndobeko from Sarah 25 FM. I was watching Ubaba Activity namhlanje, and I realized something efike nje emqondweni wami. Mhlambe ngifuna ukubuza ukuthi ngabe March inga uma kugcina kwenzekile ukuthi nama higher educational institutions now are dealing a very same problem as i-Eddington. Ngabe siyayibona nani i-March extending their hand and their support towards some higher educational institutions, because as you've just said, it's just enter. It's going there because the very same students that were allowed, or learners that were allowed to enter ezikoleni bakhula ezithini ezakhishwa ngaphandle, now they're heading to higher education institutions. Today restivity I saw online about today and I'm worried about let the use of today. So sinayibona ni March if it's in areas in the show it extender is supposed to towards some higher education institutions. I thank you.
I think you're already late. We're already late. Currently, we have a lady called Tandile Jojozi with others who are pushing the issue of FET colleges right now. Because a lot of FET colleges, I think you might have seen from that parliamentary committee where they were talking about the issue of foreign nationals with no scarce skills actually running FET colleges and other TVET colleges. And they are on the ground. They've written to Butima Namela. There's also a number of people who have joined us from other different institutions. Because, you know, if you're looking at fancy institutions, this is how, I don't even know how this happened. Because when you look at the laws of the country, right, they are explicit in that if you are a foreigner in the country, even if you are here to lecture, you can't be lecturing English as a foreigner. You know what I mean? You come all the way from wherever to come and be a lecturer. You come and be a political analyst. Like, why do we have political analysts that are foreigners in our country? What for? What skills do they bring to the country? Do we not have our own? Because this thing people take for granted, and still until now I see it's starting to eat into the middle class as well. So the middle class is now realizing that this thing is not immune to them because, sorry guys. So they're starting to realize that this thing is not immune to them. You're seeing doctors on the streets, taking to the street marching, teachers, lecturers. Everyone is on the ground complaining that foreigners are taking over their jobs, whereas they're not providing any special skills. That's why the law was there. It was there because there's no need for us to have lecturers lecturing English, teachers coming from Zimbabwe. We've got 700 and something in KZN alone, teachers from Zimbabwe coming to teach. Why? When we've got unemployed teachers. You know, there's something that we mentioned also in our presentation, which is called a fair discrimination. It's something we want to emphasize in the Labor Relations Act, that there is something called fair discrimination. Because I can't discriminate against Upriti if she's a foreign national for the sake of a South African. That makes sense. It's not rocket science. And there's articles, there's judgments on this, where there's a lot of fair discrimination cases that have been won because it doesn't make sense. We went to speak to Minister Aaron Mutharedi, who said to us that they have now started, well, it's actually in effect, because I saw in one of the universities, refusing foreign nationals to study medicine. Like completely. Like if you're a foreigner, you're not allowed to study medicine. It's currently in the country. Because he said while he was at Home Affairs, they'd get a lot of court cases, taking them to court from foreigners saying, you taught me, now you must hire me. Because, I mean, it makes sense. Why would I teach you and then say, when, like teaching foreigners law, for example, you come and you learn law to what? Obviously, because you must practice. And you're going to practice which law? South African law. So these things start from primary school, where you're teaching them. You take them, when they finish there in Ellington, where must they go? They must go to a high school, right? We're going to have the same problem. Now we must go to a high school and remove them so that we can put a South African child. It's a never-ending story. When they finish high school, where must they go? They must go to university. Now we must go to university and fight them to remove them to put South African children. So a lot of people think they're not affected now because maybe their children are still in primary school. Oh, primary school, it's only primary. Why are you harassing poor primary school children? But it starts there. Everything, if you want to solve it, you start at the grassroots. We're not going to go there to universities because probably by then the government has given them documents or they've found their way through Home Affairs and they've gotten their documents. But there, at foundation phase, that is where our government should be saying no to foreign children. Because if you're saying they deserve a right to an education, you as the government must build them refugee camps there and educate them there. Not at the expense of South African children, never. Never. Our children must be going to the beach while their children are in school, learning. From there, high school. From high school, university. It's a cycle, this thing. They've penetrated everything, these foreign nationals. SANDF, CFO, the person who's in charge of the finances of our entire military is a foreigner. We have soldiers being told that you can't be harsh to illegal immigrants. I received messages from members at the border saying we can't touch them. You can only just look at, you're a soldier. They swear at you, they throw stones at you, but you can't touch them. Why? Because we've got people who are foreigners who've infiltrated our military. Their soldiers don't eat. Where do the finances come from? From a person from Ghana. Why do we think that a person from Ghana is going to prioritize South Africa? We've got this Human Rights Commission, their head of research, the person who decides that let's take March and March to court, is a person from Uganda. That person decides, oh, according to my research, March and March is the problem, let me take them to court. That person. Mind you, the Human Rights Commission is funded by us through our tax money, but the decisions are made by someone from Uganda. Have we ever heard anything being said by the Human Rights Commission about Zamazamas? No. Have they taken anyone to court for Zamazamas? No. Have they taken anyone to court for the 4,000 South African children who until today in Gauteng are not placed? No. But trust me, when it comes to March and March, going to hospitals, you will see them. Firsthand, they'll pay the best legal teams. And that person, by the way, from Uganda, his father and grandfather were leaders in Uganda. They were decision makers in human rights, but Uganda still has the worst human rights crisis in the country today. But he's not in Uganda helping those Ugandans have their human rights, but he's here in South Africa telling us about our human rights. That is how much we've allowed this to happen. We've allowed it to go on for too long. And we must question everything. Whether they call you xenophobic or whatever, we don't listen to that anymore. We need to take this country back from all these foreigners. Even in high place building, I saw someone complaining that in Tshwane, I don't know who is head of this, in Zimbabwe, in Johannesburg, their head of this is someone who's from Zimbabwe. We saw a judge who wants to head the labor courts being someone from Zimbabwe. How does this happen? How do we allow this? And it seems like we're raising petty issues to some people, but not when there's an influx of foreign nationals. If it was normal every day, like one Zimbabwean here, one Ugandan there, it's not that in this country. In this country, we are being completely taken over. There is an invasion. I heard that even some of your media houses now are being run by foreigners.
Yes.
Yeah, you see. But you sit here and some of you and you act like you are not hearing us. Unfortunately, we know it's your job, but one way or another, we have to stop writing articles that are anti-South African. We have to. Now it's no longer about us as much, it's about you as well and the future of your children in your country. If your editor says don't cover a story that's showcasing the reality of what South Africans are happening, then don't cover that story. In one of those radio stations there, they said they mustn't cover a story that has much and much. We are fine with that. But they wanted to go and cover a story that has to do with the Department of Education, but not cover much and much. How is that balanced reporting? There's no balance there. But we are fine because you guys are here, they can stay, it doesn't matter. So we are calling on, like I can't emphasize enough how every single South African job and South African identity is being stolen right now. You two, the twins, one way you'll see another one of those people who are there that you are interviewing, they're going to do the same thing you're doing. But they're not going to be covering your stories, they're going to cover their stories. Very, very soon. They also have twins, maybe twin girls though. So guys, when we talk about much and much protecting us, we're protecting our entire resources. We don't have a problem with foreign nationals. We emphasize this again. But as long as they're here doing good things, and they are here, there's no, like we said, there's too many laws being broken to accommodate foreign nationals. You can't be telling us that you've got FET colleges where there's foreigners, and then when we talk about it, you say it's because we hate foreign nationals. No, we are saying that the law doesn't allow it. Whether they're here legally or whatever, at the end of the day, the law does not allow for a foreign national to come and sweep the floor. That's just the law, it's not us. So people must stop making this about us having vendettas or hating people. No, the law is the law. Next thing, foreigners are going to be voting, like you said, because the Refugees Act says they are allowed to do all the things that we are allowed to as citizens. But then we also say that foreigners are not allowed to. You see the contradiction there. In our very own laws, the Refugee Act says they're allowed to do everything we're allowed to do. But then the law says only South Africans are allowed to vote. Then the Constitution, then you don't know which is which. If you are making reference to say that they have all the rights that are written on the Constitution, on section what, but in that very same Constitution it says that foreigners are not allowed, then what are we doing as a country? Why are our politicians not bringing these things up? What are they doing in Parliament? What are they doing in Parliament if they're not raising these issues? Then we've got laws that are contradicting each other. If they're not raising that South Africans are tired of illegal immigrants, what are they doing in Parliament? Of course, we've seen some political parties doing an exceptional job and raising the issues that South Africans are concerned about. And that's why we as March and March continue to engage such political parties and such departments as well. We're also currently speaking to the Premier's office, we're working with them. We've even asked them, because they've got an operation, it's a program called Engangeni Ngomnyaka Yafo. We have asked them as the Premier's office, please can we be part of that movement? We don't mind, we will go all out. And we are really grateful because the Premier's office has listened to us. And we are working on being part of such programs where we can be hands-on and can be seen to be making sure that our laws are implemented. My chairperson is saying,
Simple check from Daily News. I had properly constructed my question, but now there's a rejection. I'm a proper foreigner as well with a proper documentation.
Yeah, you see, I told you it's taking over.
Well, let me just go ahead. Mr. Son, I just wanted to find out from you, are you by encouraging members of March on March to be politically affiliated as opposed to being politically apolitical? In fact, are you not afraid that it will muddy the process or the aim and objective of the organization? For instance, I remember when we were covering the election story, instead of the department responding to your real issues, they rather opted to call you that you are political.
Yeah.
And secondly, also I'd like to find out from you as the organization, because there are other political parties who are also championing putting South African first.
Yeah.
How are you then going to safeguard that they do not hijack a movement in getting votes from your own campaign? Thank you.
Very interesting questions. I think in terms of our members being political, as I said, because we're not a political party, if we were a political party, I'd understand that they are not allowed to align with any political party. But because we are not, it's difficult for us to dictate to people what they should do. But like I said, we will always caution our members against political parties that are not in the interest of what we stand for. Because you can't be March and March and then also be preaching that people must find creative ways to come into the country, for example. I'm just making an example. So that doesn't make, it's a contrast, you know? And we're not saying that those political parties must stop preaching whatever message that they're preaching, no. We're just saying that's not who we are, and that's not what we stand for. We stand for South Africans through and through, from beginning to end. If we need to discriminate against people fairly for South Africans to be put first, that must be done. And if it means that we must change the constitution, that must be done. Because currently, we are dealing with a crisis we didn't know many years ago, 30-something years ago, when they even wrote that constitution. They probably didn't know that we'd be dealing with an invasion now, you know, disguised as legal. So it's very important that is done. And then you mentioned something about political parties infiltrating us. I think, for example, when we have a march, we make it explicitly clear that the march is for March and March, please don't wear political regalia. But you know people will always take chances. But we go out of our way to emphasize this. Like even before the march starts, I know there was even a case where Nozi was furious this one time because some members they're saying I don't have any other thing to wear. They're like, okay, switch your t-shirt around, wear it inside out. As long as you understand what we're saying, we're not trying to be labeled as any political party. But there will be instances, for example, where March and March will go and support Action SA, for example, and Action SA will come and support March and March. But it's not a program of March and March. Or even if it is a program, but it's not limiting to you being there as a political person, wearing a t-shirt, say Action SA or MK or ANC or EFF, whatever, you know what I mean? You are allowed to just come there and probably pickets. We do that a lot with pickets because pickets is difficult to say don't wear, well, because it's just the pickets, you know. But with our marches, we are stringent and we are clear that it's only march and march gear or your own attire that you must wear. We do, like I said, work very well with certain political parties, and we're not gonna disassociate ourselves with those political parties. In fact, when it comes to votes and elections, if it means we can promote those different political parties, we will, you know, we will. Because, for example, in some political parties make it explicitly clear in their manifesto that they are anti-illegal immigrants. And if we can highlight and shine the light on the fact that the IFP, for example, has a manifesto that is explicit, that says that they are anti-illegal immigration, we will support that, unapologetically so. We will support them. Whether people say it's because it's a new IFP or whether they're giving us money, we don't care. In fact, if the IFP can give us money, we'd appreciate it. We really would. If all of them 40 actually is, hey, guys, we need money, you know? We've got operations that need money. And currently South Africans are using their own money. That's why we even have places where we ask people to make donations, etc., because money is what we need. The only thing is we're not going to take money in a non-transparent, illegal way and from people who don't serve the interests of what we're doing. We're not up for sale. That's not what we're doing. We're here to save South Africa. And if South Africans want to give us money, guys, money is what we need. Like that, I can't emphasize enough. We need it. And if there's business people who want to support and want to be behind the scenes, we have a lot of those. Sometimes they come through, they're like, I want to support you guys in your next march with t-shirts and whatever. You don't have to give us like proper money, pela money. You know, you can give us resources. We appreciate that. You can transport our people, whatever that you can do. Some bring water, some bring food. Anything and everything is appreciated because the fight is still long and still hard. And we're fighting, like I said, we're not only fighting illegal immigrants, we're fighting a system, we're fighting politicians, we're fighting beneficiaries, we're fighting even people who believe they are in love. So, yeah, our problems are mean. I like the fact that everything I'm referencing to is right in this room. Alright, and also we just want to say there's other political parties like that we want to appreciate for coming through and supporting us, especially during the Addington pickets. We had MK, they were there religiously every day, or members of the MK, and Dudula, the entire structure, they came from Johannesburg. We just want to say thank you to them and those who continue to support us. And those who continue to, sorry, Sipho, I know you had also alluded to the fact that they are calling us a political party. I feel like, you know, when something threatens you so bad, like you do feel like you must rubbish it as much as possible. Because how many other organizations have been there even before us that speak about not wanting illegal immigration? I mean, they've even put South Africans first, which was huge, you know? Nobody said that's a political party or went on to rubbish it every day or rubbish the people that are heading it. But with us, it's a completely different story. Like, you know, every week you probably get something that's like they want to push a narrative. But for me, that makes me happy because it means we're doing something right. Because when we started March and March, some of you might remember, some people were saying that I'm going to march alone, this thing is going to die out, this thing not going to last, this, Look at us today, we've got ENCA, Newsroom, 1KZN, Gagas, Debit Network, we've got News Us, News SA, I'm saying that. So. Why do you even take them? Why do you want me to emphasize them? Umlazi, Vibe FM, we've got IOL, we've got
Daily News, please.
Oh, yeah. You know, look at us today. We've got Chef and Rapid. What more could you ask for, you know? But when it started, a lot of people didn't see this vision coming this far. And here we are today. So we expect criticism. We're welcoming it. Like we said, if you must question us, question us. If you must doubt us, doubt us. But sometimes, Pela, also say the good things that we've done. You know, don't only criticize. Say, we put those children in school today, and they're in school, guys. They're looking very nice. And thank you to South Africans for the uniform.
Thank you. I think we are done with the round of questions, unless I'm leaving someone. Okay. Would like to request all the media houses to do just a bit of a registration on the desk there, so that they can just write their details and their contact details, emails.